Seattle is known for its love of coffee, dogs, rain, and electric vehicles. At the University Village Shopping Center, there are 3 EV showrooms. Only one of them has a waiting line today, and it's quite long. Rivian has 2 models right now, the R1S and R1T. The crowd is here to see the future.
It's going to be a while before you can get your hands on an R2, even longer for an R3. So here's the next best thing, a little bit of a tour.
The R2 is Rivian's entry into a sort of more affordable space, trying to get Rivians into the hands of more people.
Kenneth Tsang, a manager in Rivian's Special Projects Group, has the details.
One of the things I hear a lot is, I really wish the R1S was a little bit smaller and a little bit cheaper. And so there it is. And it's really interesting to see this vehicle. And then, just across the showroom over here, we have an R1S. And knowing that this is supposed to sell at right around $45,000, just about half the price of an R1S. And when you look around it, you don't think like this is, the really stripped down version of an R1. It has the same sort of look. It has a lot of the premium features. When you look at the interior, it doesn't look like it's really decontented. You see a lot of R1S in the R2, but there's so many little tweaks that are made to make it seem a little bit more friendly, a little more kind of city-oriented. Obviously, it's smaller, but there's a lot of changes in the body lines, like you see where the hood cut line is actually really different in how it carries that body line through the side of the vehicle. And it's subtle things like that where there's enough change that it looks like a different car, but still really looks like a Rivian.
These are what's called production intent models, and the public is not allowed inside them. The R2 should roll into showrooms in 2026. Unlike the R1S with 3 rows of seating, R2 has 2. It takes on 5 passengers.
So the R2, the R3, and the R3X will all be available with single motor, dual motor, and tri-motor variants. So you'll get, the single motor will be rear wheel drive, and then the others will be all wheel drive. And battery packs we haven't announced yet, but the promise is that they'll have at least 300 miles of range in all variants.
The company says R2 will hit 60 miles an hour in 3 seconds flat. I'll assume that's for the 3-motor version.
The interior, looks a lot like what you see in the R1, but obviously, we had to cost this down a bit. And when you look at other manufacturers, you look at Tesla especially, you can see exactly where they cut costs. They took a screen out. They, take a lot of features out of the interior, where if you look at the R2, we just very carefully selected where we would actually take parts out, make the assembly more efficient while still maintaining a lot of that premium feel, a lot of the theme of the R1. If you want to be able to carry long items in here, like a surfboard, you can actually roll that glass down and then fold the seats down. You can put lumber in there. The Classic is sort of the surfboard. And this is an expensive, complicated feature that we have to put in the car. Not everybody's surfing all the time. And so in order to make this usable for as many people as possible, we even added this little fold-up table, which usually when I'm carrying a coffee cup or something, I'll set it up there. But it's great if you're camping, you're just tailgating, hanging around with your friends, or even for me, I'm a mountain biker. I would take all of my gear that I know I need to take on my ride and just set it here. And I know that when I've cleared off the table, then I would just hit the button, close up the glass, and go off on my ride.
Also, the rear side windows vent outward. Nice touch. Eyeballing the cargo space, it looks to be about the same as a Cadillac Lyriq. It doesn't skimp on the amenities either.
Flashlight in the door, just like there is with the R1. But what's kind of fun is on the other side of the car, there's a second flashlight, or at least there's a second flashlight dock that's actually the same as the one on the other side. But what we have here is a little power bank and hand warmer. So you can use this to charge your phone, or if it's cold, it's just, literally a piece of metal with a battery in it. So why not keep your hands warm with it?
Another Trek feature, all of the seats, front and back, fold flat for those times you want to use your SUV as an Airbnb.
The most memorable thing for me at the reveal event was that the 2 glove boxes probably got more applause than the R3 did.
There's a useful center console. Even the pre-production materials look rich. Upcycled birch trim and a solid amount of recycled plastic keep with Rivian's tread lightly approach.
We're looking at how to balance cost and weight. In addition to that, there's also sustainability scores for all the different choices. So then we're looking at that rather than just trying to make it as cheap as possible, as light as possible, the sort of traditional engineering metrics.
R2 has front storage. The crew on hand said they weren't supposed to open this one. This is not an ordinary rooftop tent.
And this is the Treehouse, Rivian's take on a rooftop tent. Really great thing about having a OEM rooftop tent is the level of integration that we can provide. And so, this is powered through the vehicle. It has climate control inside of it. It has a heated mattress. And these are all things that are made possible with an EV that's able to pass power up to the tent. And then on top of that, because it's passing electricity, it's also passing communication. And so there's a unique camp mode in here. And you can see that there's even options for climate control in the tent, heating the mattress, turning on the lights. And then there's also this night mode. So the super dark mode here is your kind of just alarm clock version. And that way you can see what time it is. You can see all this kind of vital information. And it can be kind of fun if you, camping with a family, you can have a couple people up top. You can have a couple people down here. The tent is really unique in how much integration we can have with the vehicle versus just any other tent that you would bolt to the top of a car. There's actually a privacy blind over the clear window over on the other side that doubles as a projector screen. So there's a projector that hangs from the ceiling and it'll project onto that screen so you can sit in the tent and watch movies at night. But what's really neat about it is it actually is translucent enough that you can also watch movies from the other side. And so if you reverse the image, invite your friends around the campfire, you can just throw on a movie, connect up your Rivian Bluetooth speaker, and you've got movie night at the campground.
Rivian isn't talking specifics with the R2. It gets even more cryptic with the R3. This particular one is the R3X, the sporty version. It's about the size of a Hyundai Ioniq 5, a skosh smaller. Everyone that lays eyes on it notices the 80s hatchback vibe.
What's really exciting about the R3X is it kind of let the designers run a little bit free with how the car looks and a lot of the bold pops of color, some really interesting design choices on the interior and exterior. It's exciting to be able to do a design exercise like this, and we can take the feedback that we get from showing the vehicle around the country, around the world like we do, and incorporate it with enough time to actually turn it into the car that people really, really want and still maintain a lot of sort of the wildness of this vehicle. One of the cool things about the R3, I think just as a story between either the R3 and the R3X, is while a lot of other manufacturers are canceling their small car programs, Rivian is saying our next step forward is a small car. And that's our dedication to, actually having less impact on the world. Between the R3 and the R2, you don't actually lose a lot of functionality with the smaller size either. And for anyone who lives in a city, you appreciate driving the smaller car anyway. But just like the R2 has that drop glass in the back, the R3 actually has a dual opening lift gate so that you can again carry long items there. The same fold flat seating and a lot of the same accessories compatibility. So when you're off camping, it'll accept the Treehouse just like the R2 will. And most of what you give up is kind of your everyday behind the seat cargo space. While a lot of manufacturers are actually even getting rid of front trunks, it's really important for Rivian to maintain one, and even in a vehicle of this size.
Like the R2, R3's interior uses a lot of recycled materials. The designers are definitely using a bolder color palette here. The back seat doesn't look stretch-out spacious, but it doesn't help that somebody strapped down a bunch of blankets, cutting into legroom. Maybe toss those in the trunk, huh? There are a lot of features back here, though.
The R2 is going to be available in the first half of 2026.
As for an R3 production date, Rivian isn't commenting. If R2 is scheduled for 2026, it makes sense that the R3 should hit the trail in 2027 at the earliest. Once again, these are production intent models, and a lot can change before the real vehicles roll out of the factory. For extremely early builds, they look quite good, and that holds a lot of promise. The crowd on hand was clearly smitten. So were the dogs.
Hope you got something out of this quick look at the Rivian R2 and R3. A reminder that this video is quite different than the review videos that I do, so check those out. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments. That's Driven. I'm Tom Voelk.